All right, Shalom Israel. We're back this week still talking about Jacob's trouble. What we want to get into this week is discussing Rome coming back into power after 1,000 years. So we let you know last week who the little horn was. There we go. I thought my mic was muted. Okay, so now we want to go ahead and talk about this 1,000 years. We brought up the 1,000 years. We want to show it biblically, and but before we do that, I want to go back into Revelation chapter 20, and we're going to look at verses 1 through 3, and then jump down to verse 7. Okay, and then we're going to get another scripture that talks about the Caucasus Mountains. So Revelation is talking about the Byzantines putting the Romans into the Caucasus Mountains. We talked about the Byzantines last week. Now, what I'm going to do when this live stream goes, when we finish with it, I'm going to put a comment out there. We're going to create a new playlist that has all of the episodes of Jacob's Trouble, and it's going to be named something like Prophecy Jacob's Trouble. You'll be able to find it out there on our YouTube page, Iron Horn of Zion. So this is the 6th episode. So I want y'all to be able to get them in order. We're probably hitting about 2 or 3 more, and then we're finished with this particular lesson. So that being said, let's go ahead and present our screen. Now, if y'all would subscribe to our page, like the video, and share it. That helps with the algorithm so other people can see this teaching, okay? All right, let's get into this. And that's not it. Give me just a couple seconds. Try and get a couple things set up here still. Share our entire screen tonight. All right, all right. So here we go. Let's see what we can do here. And it's not locking me in for some reason. All right, let's go see what we can do. It's not liking us coming in that way, so we're going to try another way. There we go. All right, now we have it. All right, we're good now. We're good. So we're going to go back to Revelation chapter 20. And rather than pulling it up here, I'm going to do this for y'all. All right, we showed this to you last week on how we separate Revelation 20. And like we told you, it's 2 1,000-year periods. So we're going to read verses 1 through 3 and then jump over to verse 7. And then from there, we'll go to Job 30 and 3, okay? Verses 3 through 8. So let's begin to read here. Revelation 20 and 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven having the key of the bottomless pit. And we showed you last week that a pit just means that it's something worthless. We're talking about a piece of land, okay? So we identified this land last week as the Caucasus Mountains. You know how mountainous regions are. Down in the valleys, usually you may have some fertile ground, but as you go further up, you can't grow anything, okay? It says, and a great chain in his hand, and he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. And I don't know if I showed y'all that last week, but the Roman army, they used to have a pole that they would carry. And on that pole, they would have a bronze head of a dragon. And then behind that dragon, it would be like a cone-shaped cone-shaped cloth that will come out behind it. The dragon's mouth will be open. And when they're going down riding these horses, the wind will go through and this thing whistle. So the enemy hears that coming. They hear the hooves of the horses. I mean the cavalry. They carry these things, and that's what it's talking about. The great red dragon. Okay, so let's read that again. And he laid hold on the dragon. This is a sign of Rome, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. And so we showed you that the Byzantines locked up the Romans for 1,000 years, and we're going to show you more of that tonight. And cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. Let's jump over to verse 7. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. You see that? And that's why we tell you this is the way you have to separate it to read it. If you read what's in blue in between there, that's talking about the 1,000 year reign of Christ that has not happened yet. Okay. All right. So now let's go to Job chapter 30. I'm going to close this out real quick. We can just go ahead and close that. Let's go to Job 30. And we're going to start in verse 3. And I want to say Shalom to everyone out there. Appreciate y'all joining us this week. I'm going to expand this a little bit so my screen's not so busy for y'all. So we said that the Byzantines locked the Romans up into the Caucasus Mountains. Now, this is going to describe a faction of those Edomites that were in the Caucasus Mountains. But I told you last week, there's another group called the Khazars. We're going to get into the Khazars probably next week. Now, the Khazars, this does not depict them. The Khazars were a very militant tribe or group, and they were very effective in keeping the Muslims from coming up into Europe. So they did a lot of the fighting for the Byzantines on the south end, on the south side. Okay. So let's read this. Job 30 and 3. For want, so that's want. That's when you're in need of something. Okay. It says, for want and famine, they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness in former time, desolate and waste. See, Job is prophesying about something that was going to happen. And he had identified these people because if you remember, one of his friends was a Temanite. Teman is a grandson of Esau, and we talked about that before. So Job had a friend who's a Temanite. So he's familiar with these people. If you look at verse 1, he says, but now they that are younger than I have me in derision, whose fathers I would have disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock. This is what he thinks of these people, even though he has a friend who's one of them. You know how you always had that one friend? Oh, he's different. He's not like them. You know how we say. So let's go back to verse 3. For want and famine they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness in former time, desolate and waste, because we had destroyed them. We were the Byzantines. We had ransacked them. Okay. Verse 4. Who cut up mallows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meat. So this is what they're having to eat. They're fleeing, they're running, and they even haven't even had time to farm. They don't have herds. They're just eating off the land to survive. They were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as after a thief. I mean, we were furious about these people. If you look it up, during the time that these people reigned, Rome smelled so bad that it says 100 miles in every direction you could smell it. See, they defecated wherever they stood. They urinated wherever they stood. We had to teach them about sewage systems and things of that nature. We put those in. All right. Let's keep reading. Verse 6. To dwell in the clefts of the valleys, in caves of the earth, and in rocks. Now, see, they had to flee from before men to go to the Caucasus Mountains, where no one desired to pursue them. You see what I'm saying? Verse 7. Among the bushes they brayed. See, they had gotten out there and they were living in the wild and they started acting like wild animals. Some of them had lost their ability to even communicate normally with speech. You see what I'm saying? Under the nettles, they were gathered together. They were children of fools, Yea, children of base men, the lowest form of man. That's what they were. They were viler than the earth. Okay? And these are the people that actually got you in derision, that actually defeated you because you went into sin. See, I'm going to tell you something. I tried to tell you this last week. The first Byzantine king was Constantine. Constantine married one of these ladies. His son, Constantine V, married one of these ladies. He actually married a Khazar, and he persecuted his own people after doing that. Constantine pushed Greek mythology and all that. He pushed Greek customs, but he was married to one of these women. Let me give you another secret. Well, Constantine married a woman named Irene. Let me give you another secret. Muhammad, who started Islam, he was married to one of these women. Her name was Khadijah. See, all of these major religions, the men involved, they were married to Edomite. Keep that in mind. When Solomon went off, he was married to Edomite. Yeah, he had 1,000 wives. That 1,000 wives. Actually records 700 wives, 300 concubines, and listed that in that group, Edom. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. All right, so that's Job. I'm showing you that they went into the Caucasus Mountains. It says that they dwelt in verse 6, dwelled in the cliffs of the valleys and caves of the earth and in the rocks. This is where they ended up going when we pushed them out of Rome. Let's go to Revelation 17 and 8. Now, I'm going to try and keep this one kind of short tonight because what I want you to do is really get this information. And then next week, we're going to come back. We're going to talk about Spain and show y'all some of the things that happen in Spain and how this devil, Satan, as Revelation calls him, repeats the same things over and over. Okay? And we're going to get into America and show how America does that. So let's do this. So this is John the Revelator speaking. He says, the beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. Didn't we just read about that? And go into perdition. So what is this perdition? If we were to look this word up, it means destruction. This beast is going to be totally destroyed. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. See, those who weren't written, they don't get teachings like this. If they see it, they click on past it. They go on to something else. They say that this is a myth. So they're going to wonder. And they're going to be amazed by the works that this devil claims he can do. Keep reading. When they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. See, they're going to behold that beast and they're going to be in amazement. Let's go on to get into this thing now. I want to show you something. And we're going to go to Ezekiel 35 and 5 after we read this, okay? So let's go back to, let's minimize this just a little bit. And I want to pull up this right here. Now we're talking about, I just showed you these people being in the Caucasus Mountains. Now I want to show you how they come out of the Caucasus Mountains. Do we want to do that? Yeah, we're going to do that. And before we go to Ezekiel, we're going to go to Revelation 17. Okay? So now what we're looking at is a papal bull, okay? And the papal bull gets issued by the Pope of Rome. So I want to show you somebody. Let's go right here where it says Pope Nicholas V. It authorized Alfonso V of Portugal to conquer the Saracens and pagans and consign them to perpetual servitude. Let's stop right there for a second. I do want to go to Ezekiel. Keep in mind, perpetual servitude. Let's go to Ezekiel. See, all of this slavery and stuff, it came from the Roman church and it came from the Protestant church when we got over here to America. And we're going to describe and tell you what Protestantism is. I mentioned it before, but you have to understand the role that the church plays. All right. So we just talked about perpetual servitude. Watch this. because thou hast had a perpetual hatred. You see that word perpetual? And hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. This is talking about Esau, the Edomites. That's what they did to us, okay? That's who has the perpetual hatred. And what I'm showing you with the Pope says, remember I showed you that the Byzantines were started Christianity. Constantine the Great did. So wouldn't that mean that the first popes were Byzantines? Yes. But about time the sixth pope came around, the Edomites were there. Why? Because we went on and we married heathens. So out of that became this pope out of Spain, and we're going to pull him back up, Rodriguez Borgia. Going to pull this back up again. I want you to see that perpetual hatred. All right, so here we go. Let's read this again. Let's start from the beginning. It says, "Dum the verses." In English, that means until different. So in other words, when they issue one of these papal bulls, it stays in place until another pope comes around and says no longer. Okay? It says, is a papal bull issued on 18 June 1452 by Pope Nicholas V. It authorized Alfonso V of Portugal. Now look at this. The Pope is authorizing the king. Yeah, I want you to catch this because we're going to read about this in Revelation. Alfonso V of Portugal to conquer Saracens and pagans and consign them to perpetual servitude, slavery. Perpetual means if your father was a slave, you're going to be a slave. We've heard about that in the U.S. Okay, now watch this. Pope Calixtus III reiterated the bull in 1456 with Inter Caetera, which it says not to be confused with Alexander VI. That's who we want to get to, renewed by Pope Sixtus IV in 1481. So they're renewing this papal bull that puts what they call pagans into a perpetual servitude. Now let's jump down here because we just mentioned Pope Alexander VI up here, okay? Let's look down here. Right here where it says the concept. The concept of the consignment of exclusive spheres of influence to certain nation states was extended to the Americas in 1493 by Pope Alexander VI with Inter Caetera. We read about Inter Caetera up top. So what it's saying is he extended this perpetual servitude of slavery into the Americas. So when the Spanish came over and found the Americas, Christopher Columbus, this Pope told him it's okay to put our people into slavery. That's what I want you to see. It came from the Catholic Church, and you need to know that. Let's do something real quick. I hadn't planned on doing. Well, let's go ahead to Revelation, like I told you. Then we're going to go to this other verse. Let's go to Revelation. Let's go to chapter 17. And let's go down to verse 12 is what I wanted to get. Verses 12 and 13. Now, you remember we talked about the 10 horns before. Let's make this less busy for you. We talked about the 10 horns, and it's going to talk about it again. It says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings. This is all repeating for all of you who've been with us each week, which have received no kingdom as yet. So when John received this revelation, these kings did not exist yet, but received power as kings 1 hour with the beast. So they're going to exist when this last beast of Rome. Rome is the beast, but they're going to exist after the Romans come back out of their 1,000 years of being separated, locked up. Okay. Verse 13. These being the 10 horns or 10 kings, have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. Well, how do they do that? Through the church. That's why I was showing you that the nations are actually, these horns are actually taking commandments from the Pope of Rome. You see that? That's what the papal bull is about. Now let's go on now. I'm going to take you to Second Ezra. I hadn't planned on doing that, but let's do it. Let's see. We're going to go to Second Ezra. See if it let us get there real quick. And I want to show you who populated the Americas. Second Ezra chapter 13 is where we're going. Give me just a second. I didn't have this in there. And I don't know why I didn't. I should have. Let's just go on over to Second Ezra. Let's go down to verse 45, I think is where I want to be. A little bit higher. All right, let's start in verse. Let's start in verse 39. All right, so here we go. Second Ezra, chapter 13 and verse 39. It says, "And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, those are the 10 tribes." Now remember, the 10 tribes have been taken into captivity by the Assyrians. So they didn't serve in Babylon with us. They didn't go through the Persian and Mede persecution. They didn't go through the Greek persecution. They didn't go through the Roman persecution. The reason why is that they were someplace else. I'm about to show you. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Osei the king, whom Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, led away captive. So Hosea was the king of the northern kingdom. Was it northern kingdom? Okay, he was the king of the northern kingdom, I think it was. And when Salmanassar, the king of the Assyrians, led them away captive. And he carried them over the waters. And so came they into another land. All right, so now they're in Assyria, okay? Verse 41. But they took counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen. They want to separate from these folks and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. Listen to this. Where they're going to be the indigenous people. No one had ever dwelt there. That they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. They went into slavery because they did not keep the commandments of God. Now they're saying that they were going someplace else and they were going to do that. They were going to keep the commandments. And the Most High, with his sense of humor, said they ain't never done that. And so it says, and they entered into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. So on the east side of Africa, they entered into the Euphrates. Okay. For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half. They had to go clear to the other side of the earth. And by sailing, it takes a year and a half if you go all the way from the top of the east of Africa down past the Horn and back up to West Africa and come across. You're looking at a year and a half. Okay. And the same region is called Arsareth, or the New World. Y'all get that? Let's do this. I hadn't planned on doing this, but I should be able to find it real quick. Let's look at the Jewish Encyclopedia. Let's see if we can spell Arsareth correctly. All right, it says, this is in the Jewish Encyclopedia, land beyond the Great River. Arsareth is the name of the land beyond the Great River where the 10 tribes, let me see if they'll let me pull it up. Here it goes, Jewish Encyclopedia right here. All right, here we go, here we go. It says, the name of the land beyond the great river, far away from the habitation of man, in which the 10 tribes of Israel will dwell, observing the laws of Moses until the time of the restoration. Well, the Apocrypha didn't say they were going to, it said that's what they said they were going to do. And then it goes on and quotes the same scripture that I went into. Now watch this. Here, this is what I want you to get. Columbus, it's talking about Christopher Columbus, identify America with this land. Do you see that? That's what I wanted you to get. That's why I came here. And right here, they confirm We're talking about Christopher Columbus. See, when Christopher Columbus came over here, these people were speaking Hebrew. He actually brought Hebrew translators with him. And we'll get into that when we're talking about Spain, why he brought Hebrew translators. But they were speaking Hebrew. They kept a lot of the customs. They believed in polygamy, which is one man having more than one wife. They bathed, which was very unusual. Um, their women separated themselves when they were on their cycle. Okay, so they had a lot of the same customs. They actually found the Ten Commandments over here, not the original, but copies of it. Okay, they called themselves the people, and they still had a lot of the same. They identified the people in what is now we call Puerto Rico. They identified them as Ephraimites, which is a tribe of Israel. So there's a lot of stuff you go read back up on it. You'll find that these people were the 10 tribes, okay? And Arzareth just means new world. All right, so let's go back to where we were at. We were in Revelation 17. Did we finish that? Let me look at it real quick. So give power and strength unto the beast. Yeah, we finished that. So now where I want to go is we're talking about Pope Alexander the Sixth. And the reason I brought him up was that papal bull, but there's another reason. He had a son. And his son's name is Cesare Borgia. Let me pull this old Cesare up. Now, when you pull up Cesare, you have a man right here that looks very familiar. This is that white Jesus that they talk about. His picture was actually Cesare sat for that picture. See, you're not worshiping a God when you worship this white Jesus. You're worshiping this man, Cesare Borgia. Now, let me show you something about this man, a few things. Where do you want to go? Before we go to history on him, let's look at what the Bible says about him. Let's go to Job 9 and 24. Job 9 and 24. We're going to hit like 3 or 4 verses, then I'm going to give you some history on this cat. Because this is how they came out of the Caucasus Mountains. They came out through the church. See, they came out through intermarriage. And through the church, what I mean by that is they started teaching that everyone could be saved. Before, everyone knew that the Israelites were the chosen people of God, and they knew that this was our book. And it was through the church that they pushed something else. And see, that was partly our fault because we pushed the customs of Greece. And once we did that, that made them and we fell into Christianity. That made it easy for them to jump into Christianity. And the Christianity that they taught was different from what we had been teaching. You see what I'm saying? Now let's get into this. Job 9:24. It says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. So we know who's in charge of the earth right now. It's not us. He, that's the wicked. That's who the earth has been given to. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? If he not the wicked, then who is it? That's what God is asking. Now watch this. It says he covereth the faces of the judges. Covereth. When you see that ETH at the end, that means he continues to do it. He's still doing it to this day. So what does that mean to cover the faces? Let's go to First Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 4. We're going to get a little bit more detail on this covering the faces. First Maccabees 3 and 4. I want y'all to get this now because we're going to get into more detail on Cesare. Cesare is a devil, I'm telling you. He's a murderer. He's incestuous. We're going to talk about old Cesare. All right. Is it First Maccabees 3 and 4? 3 and 8, isn't it? What verse is that I wanted? Hold on, give me just a second. Give me just a second. Won't take but a second. Get my phone out. Let me get my phone out. I thought I had that. I thought I memorized that. Hold on. Won't take me but a second. I know it's First Maccabees. I'm pretty sure it's chapter 3. 3 and 48. That's what it is. Okay, there is 8 on it. All right. So here we go, verse 48. It says, and laid open the book of the law. So the Bible that we had back then was just the Old Testament, okay? And somebody laid it open, and it was the Greeks or the Edomites, the children of Esau, wherein the heathen sought to paint the likeness of their images. That's what Job means by cover the faces of the judges. See, we're the judges, and they covered our faces by painting us white like them. They went into the book and just started putting white images. We're going to look at that some more because there's one judge that's more important than all of us put together, and that's Christ. They painted his face. And to prove that, we're going to go to we're going to go to the wisdom of Solomon. And I showed you all this last week, but it should make more sense this week. We're going to go to chapter 15 and verse 4, okay? Wisdom of Solomon, 15 and 4. The Bible says, out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. So we're going to establish it tonight. So watch this. For neither did the mischievous invention of men deceive us. See, we weren't fooled by this fake white Jesus, nor an image spotted with diverse colors. See, they changed his color because Revelation chapter 1, verse 14 said he had skins of bronze as if burned in a full furnace, and he had hair like wool. The painter's fruitless labor. You see what I'm saying? It was fruitless. We didn't believe it. We were forced to take it on, and they separated our children and taught it to our children. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon 14:19. We're going to talk about Cesare specifically. Can I just back up here? Will it let me go back? Nope, I had to put 14 in there. Okay. Let's go to verse 19. Let me show you. Y'all saw how ugly Cesare was. Now watch this. They had the doctor of the picture. It says, for he peradventure willing to please one in authority is talking about the painter of the picture. Forced all his skill. He had to work hard to make the resemblance of the best fashion. He had to clean this ugly joke up, trying to make him look like a god. And yet, Wisdom of Solomon 15 said we weren't fooled. Okay? So let's go to back to Cesare Borgia. Let's look at some stuff about old Cesare. All right, so we got Cesare right there, okay? Got him dead to just dead center. We caught him in that. He's supposed to be Christ. That's what they say. Okay, now, I forgot to look this up. Let me get this for y'all. We're going to go to Etymology Online and look up a word because I'm about to show y'all something. I just have to remember all this from my studies. Don't worry about it. We good. We good. We good. The Spirit shall bring all things to our remembrance. And let's look up the word Renaissance. And then we're going to talk about the Renaissance with Cesare. All right, it says Renaissance. Now, this is Etymology Online. This is how the word was first used. And this is very important that you understand this word. It says great period of revival of classic-based art and learning in Europe that began in the 14th century. All right. So we're talking about the 1500s. So you remember Christopher Columbus came in 1492. So we're basically right there. All right. So basically, Renaissance just means rebirth. Okay. That's all it means. So they were locked up 1,000 years and they came out of those Caucasus. And I told you they came through the church, but there was a little bit more going on. This guy Cesare was very important in this. Now, I had looked up Cesare a long time ago, and it told me that he was the captain of the Renaissance. Now, I'm going to show you how they going in there. They're changing this stuff now. So if we look up Cesare right here, and it goes on, talks about him. It says he was a cardinal deacon. Talks about his dad, Pope Alexander IV. I just showed him to you. All right. And it says Pope Alexander was a pope from the 11th of August, 1492 until his death in 1503. Y'all see that year, 1492? Same year Columbus came to America, right? So let's go down a little bit. Want y'all to see something. His quest for political power was a major inspiration from the Prince by the renowned Florentine historian. Okay, let's keep going down. So right here, they let you know if he was important in 1475, 1476, or that's when he was born, okay? And if we keep going down, they just keep talking about this. Is what I want you to see. Alexander the Sixth staked the hopes of the Borgia family on Cesare's brother Giovanni, who was made captain general of the military forces of the papacy. The papacy is the Roman church, okay? The not Roman church, Roman Catholic Church. Giovanni was assassinated in 1497 under mysterious circumstances. Several contemporaries suggested that Cesare might have been his killer. All right, that's what I want y'all to see about Cesare. Now we're gonna go. We got our own information because they changed stuff out here, and so we have the receipts, we have the books. Okay, so what we did was we went into the Encyclopedia Britannica. This particular group of books was written in, get it? Hopefully you can see this, 1768, okay? And this is volume 3. And then here we have some stuff about Cesare that I've got saved that I'm getting ready to show you, okay? Let's see if we can find it real quick where we put Cesare. I think it's going to be right here. All right, let's blow that up for you. All right, all right, all right. Now, hopefully y'all can see this. So what it says, and I'll read it from here, makes it easier for me. All right, I can see it. It says gives his birth 1475 or 1476 or 1507. Same thing that we saw on Wikipedia. Known to 16th century Italy as the Duca Valentino, from its French title of, see, part of it's cut off. Let me see. From its French title of Duc de Valentinios, the Renaissance captain. Now, I'm not going to do this, but y'all can do this. If you go look up the captain of the Renaissance, they're going to list him as one of the captains. Now, it used to be that I'm not going to say Wikipedia. I used to be able to go out there on the internet, look up captain of the Renaissance, and it would say Cesare Borgia. But we still have the books. They can't change what I have in my hand. He is the captain of the Renaissance. He is the captain of the rebirth of the white European nations. Okay? When they came out of the Caucasus Mountains, we read to you last week that they spread all over Europe. They took over Europe. Okay? But it didn't happen overnight. Even in the 1700s, we were still there. 1492, they made us leave Spain. Okay? And that's what I wanted y'all to see about Cesare Borgia. What time do we have? 8:41. Wow. Okay. So we're not gonna get too much more in. Want to play something for y'all real quick. Let's look at Martin Luther. This is very important. Let me look at Martin Luther for y'all real quick. Okay, so I told you about the Catholic Church. Now there was a Reformation. Reformation means that the church was reformed. And this man led that Reformation. Now, look how late this is, 1483 to 1546. It says Martin Luther was a German. Remember, the Germans were part of the Ten Horns. Cesare Borgia, he was very vital in Italy. His father was from Spain, all part of the Ten Horns. Was a German theologian and key figure in the Protestant Reformation, known for his criticisms of the Catholic Church and his emphasis on salvation through faith alone. This guy did not believe in works. He did not like the way the Catholic Church was buying lands for the Pope's illegitimate children. Okay. And so he actually led a movement to separate from the Catholic Church. So they call that Protestant Reformation. And Protestant The root word is protest. That's all it means. Every church descends from the Catholic Church, every denomination. And that's why they have some of the same beliefs. See, they believe in the universal salvation of all. See, this was one of the main things, emphasis on salvation through faith alone. Well, they weren't promised salvation. Let me show you something about Edomites. Um, Before I play this little video for y'all. Edom, even their theologians realized they were not promised salvation. Watch this. Let's go back into here. I think it's going to be this one. Is that the right one? Nope, that's Ham. Let's close that out. So it's this one. All right, so at the bottom of the page, well, up here, let's look at this, where I have it underlined. It says, from Idumea came Antipater, the father of Herod the Great. You remember I showed you Herod the Great. Herod the Great was the one that issued the decree to kill all the children 2 years and old in Judea, okay, during the birth of Christ. And it goes on to tell you, Idumea, remember I told you it's just a Greek way of saying Edom. So Herod the Great was not an Israelite. He was an Edomite, okay? Now let's go down here. Edom figures prominently in the prophetic scriptures as the scene of great future judgments. She is the only neighbor of the Israelites who was not given any promise of mercy from God. The Edomites don't get the kingdom. The Edomites get slavery, and then every single one of them get destroyed. That's in the book of Obadiah, okay? That they all get destroyed. Okay, I want you to see that. Because when he's talking about he's leaving the Catholic Church with the emphasis on salvation through faith alone, well, that's not for him. See, this is all just a lure to get us involved too. See, we get involved in all these little arguments that are not ours, all these little fights that are not ours, all these little slogans that mean nothing. See, salvation was for Israel. Let's keep reading. Should I show you all that? Salvation's for Israel? We'll do that next week because I'm short on time. Might do that before we close out. What else did I want to show you? So that's I wanted to show you this little video on Martin Luther real quick, okay? And it's not just Martin Luther. I told you all churches, all denominations come from the Catholic Church. Watch this.
Church and founded the Lutheran Church. Calvin didn't like the Lutheran Church and founded the Reformed or Calvinist Church. Martin Luther didn't like the Catholic Church and founded the Lutheran Church. Calvin didn't like the Lutheran Church and founded the Reformed or Calvinist Church. Henry VIII didn't like being denied Catholic marriage and founded the Anglican Church. John Smith disliked the Anglican Church and founded the Baptist Church. William Miller didn't like the Baptist Church and founded the Adventist movement. Ellen G. White really liked what William Miller said and founded the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Charles T. Russell didn't like the Adventist Church and founded Jehovah's Witnesses. Joseph Smith disliked the Methodist Church and founded the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as the Mormons. John Wesley disliked the Anglican Church and founded the Methodist Church. Some pastors didn't like the Methodist Church and founded the Pentecostal Church. Many did not like the Pentecostal Church and founded thousands of churches like Stop Suffering, Assemblies of God, Light of the World, etc. The evangelical movement came from the Baptist Church, while the born-again movement came from the evangelical churches. The born-again faith emerged in the late 1930s in the U.S., and it gained popularity in the 1970s and 1980s, its golden age. There are now 35,000 different so-called Christian religions, each claiming their interpretation of the Bible is the right one. Martin Luther didn't like the Catholic Church and founded the Lutheran Church. Calvin didn't like the Lutheran Church and founded the Reformed or Calvinist Church. Right? Henry VIII didn't like being denied Catholic marriage and founded the Anglican Church.
Close that out. What I'm trying to show you is that all these denominations come from the Catholic Church. Notice not one of those people look like us. When you join these denominations, you're following Esau. And I mean, people will fight you tooth and nail. I saw where IUIC went to a church and they were outside trying to teach. And our people came out there. One lady, or was it the deacon? Somebody pulled a gun on them because they were trying to teach them the truth. Do you see what I'm saying? Let's go to Revelation 17 real quick. Let's go back to the Bible. Revelation 17. All right, all right. Let's go to verse 4. Let's see if that's where I want to start. Let's go to verse 3. It says, "So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast." You see that? The woman sitting on a scarlet or blood colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Does this all sound familiar? And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color. See, these are colors of royalty and priesthood, if you go back into the Torah, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. This is the Catholic Church. This is the woman is the church. The scarlet colored beast she's sitting on is Rome. You see what I'm saying? Verse 5, "And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth." All of this comes out of the church. "And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of saints." These are the Israelites. She killed us. "And with the blood of the martyrs of Yahweh Shai. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath its 7 heads and 10 horns." You see that? That's the church right there. That's who has persecuted us. That's who has guided the nations, given them permission, and said that this power was coming from God and that they're supposed to destroy us. Y'all got to wake up. If you're in those churches, you have to come out. Let's see if we find something real quick. I want to do something real quick. Uh, did I have that in last week's stuff? Let's go to Daniel 7 and 24 real quick. Daniel 7 and 24. And then we're going to let y'all go tonight. And we're going to come back in next week and give some more information on this beast. And well, before we get out of here, we're going to hit Matthew. All right, let's go to verse 24. Let's go to verse 23. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. That's the fourth beast. "And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings." And we talked about that last week, remember? Oh man, I really wanted to get into the fourth part of the earth tonight. We'll do that next week. It says, "And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the Israelites," or the saints of the Most High, "and think to change times and laws." Who gave us the daylight saving time? Who gave us a calendar that does not match the calendar of God? Who gave us holidays that had nothing to do with the holy days that the Most High set up? It was Esau. "And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time." Are we not under the hand of Esau right now? "But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion." We're going to take away that dominion eventually, "to consume and to destroy it unto the end. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom unto the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High." The Israelites are going to come back and rule, "whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominion shall serve and obey him." Who is the him? Christ. And all those nations are going to come back and serve Christ after doing what they did to his people, right? And we're going to be ruling with him. Let's go to Daniel 8. All right, let's go down. Talking about the ram right there. Let's go down. Oh, where was it that I was looking for? Maybe it's 9. That's still talking about Greece. Let's look at Daniel 9. Maybe that's where it was I wanted to show you. If not, we'll just jump into Matthew and close it out. All right, let's read this real quick. Real quick. Here we go. So it says Daniel 9 and 20. And while I was speaking and praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel, and presenting my supplication before the Lord my God for the holy mountain of my God, yea, while I was speaking in prayer, even the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation. Okay, for the Most High to send Gabriel, what was Daniel doing? Let's go back to verse 1. He said, and whilst I was speaking and praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people. That's what he was doing. See, when you're praying, confess your sin so you can be heard, because the prayers of a sinner are not heard. And confess the prayer for the sins of your people. You know how people are into homosexuality. They're into lesbianism. They're into adultery. They're into self-hatred. Confess those things because we want the Lord to heal them, okay? And while he was confessing them, the Lord sent an angel, right? And it says, verse 22, and he informed me and talked with me and said, O Daniel, I am now come forth to give thee skill and understanding. At the beginning of thy supplications, the commandment came forth, and I am come to show thee. So you're waiting for your prayers to be answered. And at the beginning, if you go ahead and confess your sins and don't be selfish, confess the sins of others, your people, that's when the Lord hears you. That's when he answers you, even though you don't see it yet. He says, I am come to show thee, for thou art greatly beloved. Therefore, understand the matter and consider the vision. Okay? We're not getting into the vision and all that, but I wanted you to see what we have to do as a people. We keep talking about when is the Lord coming? When we dare to do this, when we stop praying for just our household and we pray for everybody else, that's when he comes. Now let's get into Matthew 24. We're gonna close this out, okay? Uh, let's get back to. Oh, I can go right here. My bad. Matthew 24. I think 8:54. Yeah, we're gonna be right at an hour. What I want to do is get into Matthew 24, start at verses 1 and 2, and then we're gonna drop down to verse 21. Okay. So let's read this. It says, and Jesus. Well, we know that's not our Lord's name, okay? But we're not going to get into a whole lot about it. It's a translation. We're going to read it the way we pronounce it. It says, and Yahushua went out and departed from the temple. So our Lord comes out of the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Yahushua said unto them, see ye not all these things? He said, look around you. Do you not see all this? Verily, I say unto you. When he says verily, that means pay attention. There shall be not left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. You see that? He's telling them that the destruction of the temple is about to happen. What I say we're going next, verse 21. I want you to see this because I don't think we've done this since the first week. We need to do it again. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. So, what is this tribulation? If we look into the Strong's, it tells us that that word means trouble. So it says, for then shall be great trouble. And what are we talking about today? Jacob's trouble. And I said this was the last verse, but we're going to stop here. No, we're going to hit Jeremiah 30 and 7 real quick. Okay? We're going to confirm some things. Now, the reason I went to that verse was I wanted to show you again the beginning of Jacob's trouble. And the beginning is the ransacking of Jerusalem and the temple, okay, by the Romans. The end is going to be what you saw in Daniel when the Romans are destroyed and the Roman Empire still exists, like we showed you last week under America. So let's get to verse 7. And it says, Alas, for that day is great. Here we go, right here. Alas, for that day is great. And we're saying day, we're not talking about a 24-hour period, okay? So that none is like it. The same thing that Christ said. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, or the time that the Israelites shall be in trouble. Jacob is our forefather, okay? But he shall be saved out of it. What's going to happen to us? As a people, we're going to be saved. So we're going to wrap that up tonight. I think we got to pretty much everything we wanted to get to tonight. Just trying to make sure before I close out. All right, I think that's about it. I want to thank y'all for joining us. Again, I'm going to ask that you subscribe, you like, and you share this video. They're doing a lot of stuff with our videos right now. We saw a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes, and that I don't like, where our number of viewers haven't been confirmed yet. They're showing less than half as confirmed viewers than what we're seeing outside when you log in, okay? And they're not actually sharing this to our audience anymore. They're just sharing it to some off the wall places. I mean, we're getting, you can see where which videos actually share, which videos, like if you watch it, that video goes on to show your video, and the stuff we're seeing is off the wall, like car racing and stuff like that. So it's not going out to our genre anymore. So we got to rely upon y'all to share this information. They don't want it to get out. So that being said, hey, love y'all, Israel. And I'm going to log off now. Let me get back to this. Let me stop sharing my screen. That's going to be the easiest way.